Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Hey there, it's Kaylee Hunt, the Food Freedom Fertility's podcast editor. The fan favorite that will be released this week is all about snack and fridge swaps while you are trying to conceive. This is a fan favorite because both Sophia and Caitlin talk a lot about balance, giving yourself grace, and knowing it's okay to eat the foods you love in moderation. We hope you enjoy this episode during the show's season break.
In another episode of Harry Potter Wants to Be Fertile, we have
Sophia recently watched Top Gun. Sophia's fandom fixation, Food Freedom Fandom Fixation Fertility podcast.
We have Sophia Pavia and Caitlin Johnson, your functional nutrition registered dietitians who are friends, and we want you to be our friend. And here we are. We're going to talk about today, because our last episode was very long-winded. We're going to talk about your snack options. We're going to talk about your fridge and your freezer and anything else we just decide we want to talk about today. That's what we're going to talk about.
That's what we're going to talk about today, because this is our podcast. I get I see sometimes people comment on podcasts and they don't like it when the hosts talk. They want them to just only say what the podcast is supposed to be about and not put any of their own stories about their life or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's you, this isn't for you. This
yeah. You know what? Somebody wrote yesterday and was like, hey, do you guys have an episode on medications and supplements that are safe in pregnancy? Things about antihistamines and Tylenol. I think you guys should do an episode on that. And I was like, well, we've brainstormed out the next 10 to 15 episodes, and that didn't make the list. But it was just kind of interesting. I thought it was a good suggestion, honestly, because they said, I really loved how you took a scientific approach to caffeine. I'd love to see that based on Tylenol and antihistamines. And the other thing it made me think was, man, people are really coming to us and revere the information that we're sharing even higher than sometimes their obstetrician.
Well, that's not that hard to do sometimes when your doctor is just yeah, it's safe. And their foot is already out the door as they're saying it, and the door is closing.
Yeah.
You're oh, what about I had okay.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
So also I had somebody in my course conceive, yay, whoopee, and break her ankle. She's like, I have to take something. I'm in so much pain.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It made me think of my car accident when I was 8 weeks pregnant. It's I had legit issues, and then I went to the emergency room, and then I ended up with the first cold I'd had in 8 years, and I needed something, and I had to take Tylenol. So, even if we do an episode on that, there's just so many layers, right? It's sometimes this medication, whatever the medication is, the benefits outweigh the risk in this situation. But that's a conversation you should be having with your healthcare provider.
It is so true. And people get so upset when people really, really want their choices to be validated, and they can't handle if it isn't, especially when it comes to pregnancy and motherhood and issues that your child may or may not have down the line.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really hard thing to face, that perhaps some of the medicines or things that you did or didn't do while pregnant could be contributing to the fact that your child is struggling to read or struggling with language now that they're 4 or 5 years old, or has eczema, or, whatever thing. Or your kid is healthy. And so you're my kid's fine. Anyone who says that if you take this, it has risks is lying to you and is fear mongering, because I did it and my kid is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And in my life is the data.
Mm-hmm.
And so
this N of one.
It's a tough thing. And yeah, to one of my neighbors came over yesterday, and she's pregnant for the second time, and she had zero nausea ever with her first pregnancy. And this one, she's feeling queasy, and she was totally blindsided because her first pregnancy, she felt great the whole time, tired, but like not sick. And then this time around, she's been feeling really queasy. And so she didn't really know what to do. And I was sort of giving her all of my potions and stuff. And
Sophia's apothecary.
Right.
And I literally did that to my nanny yesterday. I was like, you want to have ice cream with us? And you're lactose intolerant? Let me give you some enzymes.
Enzymes and a probiotic, and we'll also give you some digestive bitters before you eat it. And we just really get everything primed. Right. Yeah. So one of the things was Unisom, which is which can be helpful for nausea, but it's not risk-free. It comes with risks. And so I was just like, I took this and I think that my kid is fine. But that's not scientific data. That's just my experience. And so take it with a grain of salt and figure out what you want to do for yourself. And I don't think you're, if this isn't right for you, then don't do it. Think about it, whatever you want to do. And that's really what it comes down to, because if it's like, I just feel kind of better when I'm taking this, that might not be worth it. But if it's like, I can do my job where I talk about food all day if I take this,
that was me.
And I won't be able to work if I don't take this, then
or I
can't decide
put down any food if I don't take it.
Right. Yeah. I can't do the things that you need to do to have a healthy pregnancy, like go for a walk, drink water, like these things you need to do. You get to decide what risk is worth the benefit for you. What really just makes me so sad is where people aren't seeing a benefit really, and they still take it. Like someone still is depressed. They still have terrible anxiety, but they're on like 4 medications and it's not working, and they're pregnant. Okay, well, that's got to change. Because if you don't feel better on the medication and you're subjecting your body and your baby to this risk, what are we doing? This is not good. But if it's like a life changer,
it really makes me think about
when I take this antihistamine, I'm functional and I can like drive, and I'm not sneezing 45 times an hour.
Right. Makes me think about that episode with Dr. Sipra and what she said about the outcomes and offspring of people who suffered with mental health during pregnancy and those who were treated with medication, that it was better to have healthy mental health and take the medication for the offspring. Yes.
And that's if the medication gives you mental health, because there's so many of us where it doesn't. We're still incredibly anxious.
Right.
And this didn't even do it. You just take it because you're like, oh my God, I'll be even more anxious if I don't take it. Anyway, that's not what this episode is about.
Again, another episode of we'll talk about what we want to talk about. Yeah. But okay. So let's just do a little update. We are in this kind of new season model. We're getting towards the end of this first season that even had like a little commercial break in. Yeah. And we're going to batch out for the next season. And just so everybody knows, we do actually really like to have topics that you're interested in. So feel free to send them to us. Instagram DM to the Food Freedom Fertility Podcast is a great place to do it. If you email us, we almost never check the podcast email. Maybe that'll change someday. But as of right now, Instagram's probably your best shot at giving us ideas, or if there's like this incredible guest you think we should connect with and see if they want to come on. Let us know that. So on we go.
On to snacks. So we left our last episode in the pantry where we were talking about noodles and flour and canned goods. Now we are moving on to your snack pantry or your snack drawer. I keep mine in a pantry. Some people have a drawer. Mine is the pantry. And I want you to really expand your view of snacks, because we're not going to have a 1-for-1 swap for lots of things that you might like to eat. There isn't a healthy Twizzlers. Okay. There isn't a fertility friendly Dorito. There are other things, Because if you follow Caitlin and I, or been listening to this podcast for any length of time, you realize it's all about balance, and there aren't things that you can never, ever eat. If you love Twizzlers, if you love Doritos, we got to be able to fit those into your life. And it's all about how are we going to get that in there to where we're not going like face first into the party size bag, because we can never, ever eat again. It's not good for us. We have to just eat it now. We have a whole episode on that
coming up.
With our friend Marissa, the binge nutritionist. But what it's about is balance. So when I think about snacks, I think about it differently than I would think about like treats. Like I like Doritos, and if they're out at the Super Bowl, I'm absolutely going to have a handful, maybe 2 handfuls. But that's not really my fave. But do you know what's in my pantry? Salt and vinegar potato chips. Freaking love those. So the things that you love need to have a place in your pantry, but you got to eat them in a way that's more supportive of your fertility. And again, the dose. Okay. Are you eating salt and vinegar chips every week, multiple times a week? We got to find one that isn't cooked in canola oil then. We got to find one that's cooked in coconut oil. And they're more expensive to find them cooked in high quality oil, but they exist. And
they often taste better.
Yeah. It depends on what you're going for. Like if you love the Pringle and you want that sort of texture and taste and everything like that, I don't think there's like a healthy Pringle out there.
Yeah.
So get the Pringle, get the thing that satisfies. But for me, what I'm looking for in a salt and vinegar chip is I am looking for a serious crunch, and I'm looking for a sour, salty that isn't overpowering. I still want to be able to taste the potato of the chip. I don't want to feel like I'm like drinking vinegar. And some brands are like that. Like I don't really like the kettle chip. It's like too vinegary for me. Too much.
Interesting. I don't like salt and vinegar personally, but I do have those things. I mean, just a plain potato chip with good salt on it, that's like heaven. Who is that not heaven to? So, okay, before we dig into options, let's just play a little bit of a game. What did Sophia and Caitlin eat as snacks in our recent memory? Because I think that idea of balance, like giving people an idea of what it can look like based on your cravings, based on what you have in your kitchen right now, you know, what could that look like that might be different than what people expect?
My most recent snack was I found organic grapes. It's coming into season, y'all, and they were so crunchy. Like you could hear it next door. They were so crunchy. They were so freaking good. So I had a nice bowl. Here's the proof. I had a nice bowl of grapes and some sharp cheddar alongside of it, and it was really good.
That sounds
and
delicious.
That was my snack.
Last night I was hungry before bed, and we have some great berries right now. Again, kind of the season. And honestly, Costco, at least where I am, is one of the best places to find organic berries at like an okay price right now. So I had a bowl of blackberries, raspberries, and a couple really big strawberries. And then I had a handful of pre-roasted and salted pecans. It was delicious. I rely on dairy a lot for my like high protein snacks or something that's like fatty that's going to at least help the blood sugar roller coaster a little bit. But I haven't been able to eat it in the last 2 or 3 months because of breastfeeding issues with my son. So I've had to be a lot more creative than normally I am, because it's just so easy to get a piece of fruit,
right?
Some cheese,
yogurt, cottage
yogurt.
cheese.
Exactly. Those are things that I rely on a lot. So I've been hanging out more in like the nut and seed section. I've been doing a lot more fruit with like a sunflower seed butter. One thing I've really been digging lately is I get like a chocolate covered almond, and then I'll mix it with a different nut. So it's not only chocolate covered something. So it kind of gives me that like sweet crunch, salt, and I'll mix it with a handful of walnuts or something like that. That's been really tasty.
Yeah, much more satisfying when you have multiple flavors. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, I eat dairy. So I am still breastfeeding my daughter, and by the grace of God, she never had issues with dairy.
Mm.
So I am still eating dairy, and that is a great go-to snack. Another one that people get really up in arms about is deli meat.
Mm-hmm.
It can be an incredible tool. Obviously, don't get the nitrate-soaked honey maple ham that's got as much sugar as an Oreo when you're going to be eating lunch meat.
Mm-hmm.
But the Applegate brand, and there was another brand they had at Costco that I'd never seen before. I don't remember what it was called, but it was nitrate-free oven roasted turkey where the ingredients
Mm-hmm.
were like salt, pepper, turkey, and then there was like onion, garlic or something like that. It was like very simple. And so that is a great way. Like, let's say you do love Twizzlers, you do love Doritos, you're going to have something that's high carb, not a lot of nutritional value, and you don't want it to send you into orbit. And you also, I mean, maybe you want to eat a king size portion of it. Your
Mm-hmm.
taste buds want that, but your fertility, your hormones, your body doesn't want that many chips in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So when you pair it with a couple slices of turkey, you get full much faster. And so thinking about what lunch meats you like, I'm Italian, so we eat a lot of like pepperoni salami in our house. And so we found some local stuff that is uncured, that doesn't have the nitrates, that doesn't have much sugar in it.
Mm-hmm.
We buy that. And I absolutely pair some slices of meat with
Mm-hmm.
my higher carb snacks like popcorn or chips.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we absolutely want you eating bright colors. But if you're having bright colors at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, your snack doesn't always have to have them. And if you're not eating bright colors at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, your snack is the perfect place to put it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing there. Another thing that I do that I love is bell pepper with cream cheese and everything but the bagel seasoning.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I like to have in my fridge, and I usually like rotate through different kind of flavor profiles, is a bean. And I've been doing this a lot lately since I haven't been having an option of dairy. So I'll take like a garbanzo bean and mix it with tomato and cucumber and lemon juice and a little olive oil and salt and pepper. And I'll have that with something crunchy, or I'll just have a few spoonfuls of it as I'm walking by the fridge if I'm hungry. I'm getting some protein, I'm getting some veg, I'm getting some fiber, and it's incredibly satisfying. And honestly, the longer it marinates, the better it is. I'll do one that's similar, that's super easy from Trader Joe's, where it's lentils. You mix it with their pre-made bruschetta. And if you can do dairy, doing some feta cheese with it, delicious. So sometimes I think the snack option, having something like you've thought about ahead of time, you have it in your fridge a little bit ready, or even just visual, like rearranging your fridge a little bit so you see the fruit that's in the fruit drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not covered by a bag of pre-washed spinach, so that when you open the fridge, like we all do, and we're like, why do I have to eat? I'm not hungry for a meal, but I want something. Make it visual so that you can see that you have a bunch of apples, that you have some nectarines, or whatever it is that you're keeping in your fridge.
Yes. And so going back to like, this is sort of how to put a snack plate together. Let's talk about packaged snacks that people have in their pantries. So there are so many healthy things that you can buy. There's a store near where I live called Grocery Outlet, and they have this like healthy aisle. Just call it the healthy aisle. I think they have their own like name for it, but it's sort of like where they keep the odds and ends snacks. And you find random stuff in there that is at a pretty good price, so you can try it. And then if you like it, you can find it at a different store to buy more of it, because their inventory rotates a lot. They get like whatever other stores couldn't sell.
Right.
And we also have this store called GTM, which I lovingly call the expired food store. And it's not really the expired food store. It's a lot of times it's foods that are near their best by date, and it's all packaged, canned, dry goods. It's like they don't have like fresh produce or anything like that. They do have some refrigerated stuff, but so I go there and try new brands, because everything there is cheap, and you can take a risk on these plantain chips or whatever and see if you actually like them. And if you do, then you can find them next time you're at the health food store, and you can see if it's worth the $6 a bag. But when you got it for $2 a bag at the
Right.
GTM store, it's a really low buy-in to see if you like them or not.
Right.
So there are so many things like that you can find out there. Some of my faves, I love, there's a brand called Beanie Bops, and they have, or Beanie Bops or something like that. And it's different kinds of beans, like fava beans, garbanzo beans that are toasted and spiced. And you can get like Indian Bombay flavor, ranch flavor, barbecue flavor. And when you look at the ingredients, it's garbanzo beans and spices, and maybe like some kind of oil that they that they toasted them in. And so you're getting the fiber and the protein from the bean, but with the satisfied barbecue crunch that you're wanting from something else. And it's sort of like almost like corn nuts, like if you used to get those at the gas station. So finding snacks like that, that's a good one. Jerky is one of my favorites. Meat sticks, beef jerky. Larissa's makes a good beef jerky. They have grass-fed, low-sugar jerkies. So that's a good one. I really like wisps, which are like a little cheese cracker.
I was just going to bring those up. Yeah. Where it's like basically cheese that's toasted or cooked, and you're eating Parmesan, basically.
My kid loves those too. And so you can pair that with, like, let's say you're on the go and you have a banana or an apple and you needed something shelf stable because you don't have a refrigerator in your desk drawer or in your glove compartment or whatever, and you needed something that could sit in your gym bag all day or all week even. That this is one of those things that could be on that list. That's high protein. The Parmesan one is like off the charts calcium. You're getting so much bioavailable calcium with that.
And they're delicious.
They are. Do you know what's really good? You make a Caesar salad, a chicken Caesar, and use those as croutons. Yeah, delish. Super good. So those are some of my faves. I also really like the Mary's seed crackers. She makes crackers out of like quinoa and lots of different kinds of seeds, and they are truly seriously crunchy. So if you need something to dip in your bruschetta, in your guacamole, in your salsa, your hummus, if you need that crunch and you are sick of carrots and sick of cucumbers or need something that's going to not need prep or refrigeration, those Mary's seed crackers, those
are
get
delicious.
A good vote for me.
Yeah. I also like, I guess I'm running to the refrigerator again, but if you think about snacks in a different way than like it needs to be salty and crunchy, could just be your leftovers. Like I made eggs the other morning and expected my husband to eat it, but he didn't. So I put the eggs in the fridge, and then mid-afternoon, I was like, oh, I'm going to have a piece of fruit and 2 eggs that I cooked and are just sitting in my fridge. So it doesn't have to be this like, oh, I'm standing in the pantry and all I have is what's in the pantry. You can pair what's in the pantry. If you want to have some of those Doritos, have it next to a hard-boiled egg. You can pair it in a different way than what you're used to and still get that blood sugar balance.
Yeah, and get full. Because if you're getting full off Cheetos, oh, you have to eat so many Cheetos.
So
and
true.
You are not going to be feeling good by the time you've eaten that many Cheetos.
I also find for myself the time of day matters. So something like a potato chip or a Cheeto, I'm not going to leave to eat in the middle of, after dinner before bedtime, because that's when I have like the least self-control around food.
You're the most tired and worn down. Yeah.
Yeah. So like last night I had the berries and the nuts before I went to bed, because if I were to sit down with like a bowl of potato chips, I would probably go refill that bowl 4 or 5 times.
I had an interaction with my husband the other night that I'm still bitter about. We had some contention in our household over the way certain cupboards and stuff were kept. And
what may surprise you is that Sophia wasn't the one.
I wasn't the antagonist. Yes, my husband is wonderful, and he works a very high stress, dangerous job that's super out of control sometimes. And one of the ways that he kind of comes back to center and starts feeling good about life again is having his space feel
organized
control.
And clean.
His sock drawer looks like this. The silverware drawer looks like that. everything is, in its place, a place for everything. That sort of helps him de-stress. He sort of feels like the world is starting to make sense. Life isn't out of control. He's safe now. Like, it sort of helps him feel that way. And I'm all for it, right? If that's what you want to do, that's great. I can't live my life that way, especially when I'm
100%.
working and taking care of children with him gone. So he's not always going to come home to the Tupperware drawer looking the way that he likes it to look. And so he was feeling really stressed out about everything in life and sort of like exploded at me about how our Tupperware drawer was looking and how our pantry was looking. And it really hurt my feelings. And it ended up being good that it happened, because we sort of came to a consensus of like, okay, what can I do to make you feel like you're home when you're home? And what sort of realistic expectation can you have of me?
Mm-hmm.
And is it really so bad if your job when you come home is to make the pantry look how you want it to look? I mean, I'm not just going to have like open jars of maple syrup spilling into the chips or something like that. But like, is everything going to be color coded? Are all of our child's like pouches going to be sorted by flavor? No. There's just a bin of pouches.
Right.
She can just grab whatever one she wants. And so that sort of unfolded in it, and we resolved it. And I was like, do you know what we're going to do tonight? We're going to put the baby to bed. We're going to turn on this Star Wars Obi-Wan shit that you've been wanting to watch. Sorry that I said shit. Crap. Wonderful programming that you wanted to watch. And we're going to eat this pint of Haagen-Dazs mint chip that's been in our freezer. And, so he was like, oh yeah, like date night sort of thing. And so we got the ice cream, and it was like rock freaking hard because it'd been in our freezer forever. And that didn't stop him. He was like chewing the ice cream. Whereas I was sort of waiting for it to
soften a little bit.
Soften. The other funny thing is when he's really stressed, he gets like canker sores in his mouth, which isn't funny. But he's chewing the ice cream and biting his canker sores and getting so mad. And I'm like, slow down. Stop chewing ice cream. This is supposed to be a food that you can eat when you have canker sores, because you just sort of let it melt in your mouth. But he's like chewing it and eating it at this speed. By the time I went to have a bite, we could like see the cardboard at the bottom. And I was like, you turd, you ate all of this. And he's like, I thought you wanted me to eat all of this. I'm like, on what planet would I want you to eat an entire pint of ice cream to yourself? Why would that have been my goal tonight? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. I wanted to share this with you, and I got all of 4 bites because you wolfed it down, chewing it when it was hard.
It makes me think of when my husband and I ordered nachos. Because I'm like, ooh, that bite has the chicken, the guacamole, the cheese, the salsa. It's like the perfect bite. I'm looking for all the perfect bites first, right? Like,
yes.
I might not even eat the chips that don't have anything on them, because
I take the chip with nothing on it and I bring it to the chip with too much, and I make the perfect bite out of the 2.
And he's like, I'm going to save the best for last. So by the time he gets ready to eat the like perfect bite, they're all gone because I've eaten all the perfect bites. So I was like, next time we order nachos, we'll just cut the nachos in half, and I'll eat my half and you eat your half, whatever way you want to eat it. Because I don't understand how he eats. He eats the rice, then he eats the broccoli, and then he eats the chicken. And I'm like, the sauce on the chicken's awesome. Put that on your rice. Put that next to your broccoli.
Oh my God. I know. What is this? Yeah. I think this is just people that didn't get to enjoy food for a long time, and it was just something you did to become full. And so they just,
or you have to eat so quickly because, you
have siblings that are going to take it from you. Yeah.
Something. Anyway.
Well, that was our experience with trying to share a snack together. But I am deeply acquainted with our pantry and what is in there right now, because
I'm having a harder time
tantrum about it that I went through it and organized it all by color and everything. And you know what? It melted his heart. And he was so appreciative.
Oh, good.
And he was so he would probably be embarrassed if he listened to this, because obviously, listeners, it's not about the pantry. It's about a overly stressful work environment that borders on traumatic, or in fact is traumatic. And no time or space or anything to even deal with it. So you just come home after this whirlwind of an event and have to just deal with your life, and you don't know what to do with all of your upset feelings. And so you just lash it out at other stupid things. And we all do this in the fertility world. You get your period again and you're so upset about it. And then you find that your husband did the laundry with all your clothes in it, but didn't put any stain treatment on anything and put everything in the dryer, even your lace panties and bras, and they're all stuck together and wrapped around the hooks of your bras. And that becomes the battleground you want to die on. And it's not really that you're that pissed about laundry. It's that you are traumatized by the fact that you really thought you were pregnant this time around. And now your underwear is all staticky and sticking to itself. And you've already asked him so many times not to do your laundry because he never does it right, but instead he just dumps the whole thing in.
So I think somebody's really going to relate to that and go, I want to dive headfirst into the Ben & Jerry's pint of ice cream. I want that to be my snack for my entire period. What would you say to that girl?
I would say it is totally normal to feel that way. And just as we talk about in our episode with Marissa, the binge eating nutritionist, there are far worse things to indulge in than ice cream. Okay. And so I want you to cut yourself some slack, because you're not committing a crime. You're not getting intoxicated. You're not spending away your savings. You're not ruining your marriage with an affair. You're not betraying anyone. You are eating food, which is morally neutral. So cut yourself some slack. If the dominoes are going to fall, that's a pretty good direction for them to fall in as far as your life being stable. Next, when you're on your period or when you're having a specific craving for a specific thing, I am all for indulging that. What I'm not for is avoiding the uncomfortable feelings, avoiding what you know you need to face and actually deal with, and actually do some self-care that moves the needle towards mental health for you. Because eating that pint of ice cream, you're actually not going to feel better after it.
No,
you're not going to feel like, I'm
this,
so
like,
glad I did
weird
this.
shame spiral.
Shame spiral. You're not going to feel good physically. And so I would encourage you to sit with that emotion, to breathe through it. And it really only takes about 20 seconds to really get through an intense wave of emotion. Breathe through it. And then I would encourage you, before you go to the ice cream, practice some actual self-care. What actually makes you feel better? Does getting outside and watering your tomato plants make you feel better? Does brushing your dog and throwing the ball for him for a little bit make you feel better? Does getting on the phone with your best friend, your cousin, your mom, your sister, and having them encourage you, does that actually make you feel better? Do something that actually addresses the stress that you're feeling, not something that lets you run away from it. Because it's going to be waiting for you on the other side as well.
Absolutely. 100%.
And there is nothing wrong with the ice cream. If you want to eat the ice cream, I say have some ice cream. But I need you to value your body enough, to value your journey enough, to value the hard work that you've actually put into this enough to where you don't start to destroy it because it doesn't look how you want it to look just yet.
Right. And like that one pint of ice cream can turn into a week-long just eat my feelings fest. And, you know, your period's going to end and the next cycle is already begun. And what you're doing is now affecting the next eggs that are getting teed up for ovulation. So it's not wrong to have that feeling. It's not wrong to address it and even eat a little bit of it. But don't avoid and don't, you know, shoot yourself in the foot as you're trying to walk towards a goal.
And practicing actual self-care. What does that look like for you? What actually cares for you? Because I'll tell you what, I feel a lot better after an evening at the Mexican restaurant, eating chips and laughing with my girlfriends than I do after eating ice cream alone in the bathtub. And it might be a lot easier and a lot less energy to get into the bathtub and eat ice cream. but what is actually going to fill your cup. You might not feel like you have energy for a beautiful hike, and it does cost energy to go hiking, but that is going to care for your soul more than a Netflix binge. It may. I don't know who you are or what actually fills your cup, but looking at things that actually fill your cup versus just what lets you avoid something right now.
Mm-hmm. I also think too, like really paying homage to like where you're at. So you've been trying to conceive for a year, let's say your period comes, but you're also moving 2 states away because your husband's job just transferred. And you heard us say that alcohol and caffeine may not be the best thing. Take a break or cut your dose in half. Is this month the time to do that? It may not be. So give yourself a little bit of slack and say, this month I'm going to take the pressure off on all these extra changes. I'm just going to say, this is the month we're moving. We're going to eat out more. We're going to be in less control of certain things. We're going to be driving by car. I heard a couple snack ideas, but I'm also just going to stop and get the McDonald's, I don't know, Oreo milkshake thing if I really want it. And it's going to be okay. Oh, yes. Get the McFlurry if you need to. Okay, so snacks. We've got the salty crunchy. We've given you some brand ideas. Things that maybe are a little bit underrated, but are definitely fertility kind of superfood-esque, if they exist, are things like walnuts, pecans. Make your own kind of trail mix. Mix in some really good quality dark chocolate chips and be in control of what's in it and eat the things that you actually like that's in it versus buying the really crappy version.
Mm-hmm.
Having some oysters in a can, having some tuna fish for a quick protein. If you like a tuna fish, you could do like an open faced tuna fish half sandwich. That would be a great
or tuna salad with those Mary's crackers that we were talking about.
Totally.
Or one of my faves, believe it or not, tuna salad, but I dip in a crunchy sour apple, like a Pink Lady or a Granny Smith.
Yum.
Use that to dip into the tuna salad.
Yum. That sounds delicious.
It's quite good.
Okay, so let's move to the fridge.
Fridge. Okay, I thought it would be nice to start in the door of the fridge, which is generally where people keep their condiments. And I will say I saw something recently about this lady I know that has ADHD, and she organizes her fridge completely differently. She keeps all the condiments in the bottom drawer.
Oh, interesting.
And then puts all of her produce in the door so that you open it up and that's what you see. Because she's like, I don't need these cocktail onions. And all this does for my ADHD brain, it's like colors, shapes, so many things. And like your brain is just like, whoa. And you're looking at all of these things that aren't even options for you to really eat right now. And so it makes it harder to then look at, okay, what might take a little work, like slicing up this bell pepper or cooking this broccoli, actually making something that seems hard. So putting the stuff that's perishable at the forefront was a really brilliant thing that she started doing. But I haven't done that in my fridge. We use the drawer for condiments. And so that is sort of where we're going to start. And the biggest question I get, because for some reason we as women have defined salads as the epitome of health, is what dressing do I put on my salad? And salads, you know what? I'm not knocking salads. They're a great way to get lots of veggies.
I eat a salad every day. Yeah, it's not my main meal. It's like on the side of my meal, but I eat a salad every day. So I eat a lot of salad veggies. Dressing. Totally.
Now, I will say I am a big fan of make your own salad dressing. It tastes better. I get to control all the ingredients. It's fresh.
Totally.
I don't really like store-bought salad dressing. To me, it's sort of congealed like mucus, and I don't like it.
The only store-bought salad dressing in my fridge is the Olive Garden one that my father-in-law loves. And he doesn't even like my spinach and arugula salad base that I use. Totally. So you know what? I keep it in my fridge for him. And I lived in a beautiful place where there were olive trees and an olive farm. And I just fell in love with this kind of subscription olive membership, similar to like my wine club memberships. And they have these
Look
like
at this bougie girl, olive
totally,
membership and wine
totally,
membership.
totally, very much so. I spend good money on yummy olive oil that's like infused with mandarin oranges or Meyer lemons or basil and garlic. And I have 5 or 6 different kind of like flavor infused oils. These don't live in my fridge. They're kind of in my oil and vinegar section that I cook with, but I'll keep that. And then I also get really fun, fancy balsamic vinegars, like a white balsamic vinegar with peach flavor. It's like actually infused with peaches. And so I make homemade salad dressings every day. Sometimes I don't even make the dressing. I just drizzle the oil and drizzle a yummy vinegar. And I will also oftentimes buy like a balsamic glaze to give it, instead of using something sweet in the salad dressing, to just throw a little glaze on top of it. So delicious. People rave about my salads. And
She does make really good salads, I would say.
It's just that it's like good quality oil
ingredients.
And yeah. So,
which really brings me to my point when it comes to salad dressing, quality oil. This is a place where you well-meaning, well-intentioned, busy women are making these wonderful protein and vegetable salads and then pouring canola oil on it.
Right.
Soaking it in cottonseed oil without even realizing it, because you grew up having Wishbone in Hidden Valley
or you're getting the low-fat version of it, and it's full of sugar and just weird preservatives. So you have these like beautiful vegetables that are now like super sweet. Doesn't need to be that way.
Doesn't need to be that way. And if you want some sweetness in your salad, girl, grapes, strawberries, like throw some fruits in there. Have some sweetness in your salad.
Yeah, do it.
There's nothing wrong with having that in your salad. But having a salad dressing that's made of canola oil and corn syrup is really going to be moving against you. So some of the brands that, and I must say I don't eat these a lot myself, but I've seen them in the stores. Primal Kitchen, they are a dairy-free, sugar-free, non-seed oil salad
very
dressing brand. They're paleo. Yes. Same thing with Whole30 brand, paleo brand. Obviously, we don't agree with the paleo model, since we're telling you to eat beans, grains, and dairy left, right, and center here on this podcast.
But it is kind of a cleaner product.
Exactly. And you can buy a store-bought dressing that you didn't have to make for yourself, that you can keep in the fridge door at work or whatever. So Whole30, Primal Kitchen, Tessemae's. Some Tessemae's flavors are made with low-quality oils, but not all. So they do have some flavors. As you're buying your dressing, look at the ingredients. And then Bragg, like the Bragg's Aminos, Bragg's apple cider vinegar, like that brand, they make a couple vinaigrette Italian sort of dressings as well. So give them a go. If you need a dressing that's like in your pantry, in your cupboard, and you are just not the person that's going to take the time to make salad dressing, these brands get the thumbs up from me.
Totally. And I think, if it helps you eat vegetables, go for it. If you're, I guess I also want to go a step further and say, like, don't be afraid to put a salad dressing on something that helps you eat broccoli or helps you eat a bell pepper that you might otherwise not eat. But definitely it doesn't cost a lot of money to get these special fun olive oils. I just had to source it, found one that I loved, and now they ship it to me. And it's what I like to give people as like birthday presents or gifts, because they always rave about my salad. And then it's like, hey, you can make this in your own kitchen. Maybe I'll even link the place. It's a small family farm. Delicious. So don't be afraid of putting a salad dressing because it has fat on it on your vegetable, because that makes your vegetable taste better, and it actually helps you absorb some of the nutrients in the vegetable better than if it was just steamed in water.
Plain. On to condiments. What else is in the door? We talked about salad dressings. So when it comes to condiments, again, just like we were saying at the very beginning of last episode, dirty dozen, clean 15. Is it made mostly of vinegar? You want those grapes to be organic. Is it made mostly of tomatoes? Like, is it ketchup, salsa? You want that to be organic if you can.
Mm-hmm.
And think about your dose. Are you putting ketchup or salsa on your eggs every morning? Okay, well, that probably needs to switch to something that's like lower sugar, organic, because you're eating it every day. Do you have like 2 tablespoons of barbecue sauce whenever you're eating chicken wings, and that's maybe once a month?
Not a
Stick to
big
your
deal.
favorite brand.
Yeah.
I don't think you really need to be switching that one out because you're eating so little of it every month.
Mm-hmm. An interesting one for me lately is I don't really like mayonnaise that much. Like I don't need it on my sandwich. I put other things on my sandwich to make it not, really dry. But
Mhm.
we've been doing a lot of things like chicken salad or tuna salad, things that I can prep. It's easy. It's not dairy and it has kind of a creamy texture. So that's a pretty big dose if I'm going to be eating chicken salad for lunch or as a snack every single day for the week. So getting one of the like Primal Kitchen avocado based real mayonnaises versus the ones that are Kraft that say olive oil on the front, but it's like if you really look, there's a little bit of olive oil in it, but it's still mostly canola oil. Like look at the ingredients. Primal Kitchen's an awesome one. If you're using a
Yeah,
lot of
that's what I
mayonnaise
use
for
too.
something, then get one that's avocado based that doesn't have a lot of some sort of seed oil in it. I
Yep.
like organic ketchup from Trader Joe's. It does have sugar in it, but it tastes great. And if you're not eating it, like a huge dose of it all the time, that's one that I like the flavor of, and it's not that expensive at all.
Especially if you're doing something that's really protein rich, like you're having a lettuce wrap burger, you
Mm-hmm.
can have some sugar in your ketchup on your burger. Are you putting it on scrambled eggs, which is essentially only a protein source?
Mm-hmm.
You can have some sugar in your ketchup. That's fine. If you're having like sugar ketchup that you're dipping fried tater tots into, and now you're just having 1,000,000 grams of carbohydrate in your meal, that may be something to look at because that could be a bit much carbohydrate. But if you're using it as a vehicle to get the scrambled eggs, to get the burger, to get the chicken, whatever it is, into your belly in an enjoyable way, I would so much rather have you eat the protein, especially for breakfast, and have some sugar on it with your ketchup than be either gagging it down and hating it or not eating it at all.
Totally. I 1000% agree. I also think that that's something that you can do to like transition. I remember the first time I started kind of making myself eat eggs, it was just not a food I loved as a kid. I used a lot of ketchup. Now I can get away with like not even a teaspoon sometimes, but just it gives me a little bit of flavor to get through some of the egg taste. That's just never been my favorite. But I've learned to eat them, and I eat at least 3 eggs a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a friend growing up that put ketchup on everything, like always with ketchup, so much ketchup on all foods all the time. And we'd always sort of like make fun of him. And then I had dinner at his parents' house and was like, no wonder he's putting ketchup. This is terrible. His mom was the worst cook. Just refused to follow directions and
like didn't use spices to make it taste good,
or just the texture was like terrible and like wouldn't. Just like Minnesota cooking. Like,
so interesting because one of my daughters, if it's like chicken or steak or something, she's not really interested in it. She'll say, "Can I have some ketchup to put on it?" My other daughter's like, "Oh, that chicken. Can I have some butter on my chicken?" Or chicken on my butter is what she'll usually say. And I'm like, I get you, girl. You want like a tablespoon of butter for every bite of chicken that you eat. And so literally almost anything you want Bonnie to eat, if you just put a pat of butter on it, down it goes.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. That's the way. That's my daughter in sour cream. She loves sour cream. She calls it bip, like for dip. It's like, do you need to dip that in something? You need some dip. And so we had bitchin' sauce for a while, and she loved that. But then we ran out, and so I was like, sour cream is sort of similar. And so she she's only 1, so she doesn't talk quite as good as Caitlin's kids yet. And so she's like frantically like, bip, 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 bip. Like,
give it to me.
She needs bip.
Oh man, she is so cute. Well, okay. So those are good things. We're transitioning to talking about what else is on my door. I mean, I don't keep my sour cream on my door, but I do keep my butter on the door or on the counter. So if you've listened to us at all, you know that we're going to talk about something that's grass-fed, something that has color to it that's not from chemicals.
Like white. Yeah. Or like barely off-white yellow butter. You want your butter being pretty dang yellow.
Yeah. So my favorite way to do this is at Costco. They sell like, I think it's 4 packs of Kerrygold butter, but there are 2 or 3 times a year they'll go on sale and you can just buy, sometimes they limit to like 3 or 4, but I'll go back to Costco within that sale period and stock them up and freeze them.
It freezes really well because it's just fat. It doesn't have anything else in it to sort of break down and defrost oddly. And yeah. Can we talk for a second about the Kerrygold controversy that just happened? Did you hear about that?
I did.
Yeah. So Kerrygold, they do feed their cows grass, but due to the growing conditions and seasons of Ireland, they don't only feed their cows grass. And that's okay. I think that's okay. Because the butter still tastes as good as grass-fed butter.
Yeah. There are other European cultured butters that have like a similar fat content that you could switch to that, you know, frankly, unless you have your own cow and you're completely controlling all the conditions, there's always going to be a little bit of a question mark. But Kerrygold is somewhat grass-fed and it tastes a lot better. And it isn't chemically dyed yellow to be like the color of the sun. It just is yellow.
From all the fat-soluble vitamins from them eating grass. Yeah. So butter, and we're talking about butter. We're not talking about, I can't believe it's not butter. We're not talking about earth balance.
Up on that. Did you grow up on that? We had that.
We had it sometimes because there was those Fabio commercials that made it seem like it was this like thing you had to have. Especially they had one that was a spray, and in the commercial they were spraying like a bite of food with it, so you could spray each bite with the butter spray. And my sister and I thought that was really amazing, and so we wanted to get it, but we didn't end up loving the taste. I really don't like fake butter flavoring. I get like a headache at the movie theater because of the smell of their fake butter. I don't like that taste. I don't like that smell. So we wanted it and we did get it that like one time. And then my mom was like, you're going to freaking eat this. Okay. Because you demanded that we get this, but I didn't really like it. So, but I did go through a non-dairy phase where I thought being vegan was cool and the way to be. And so I did like Earth Balance and those sort of margarines, but they don't have the fat soluble vitamins that you need to eat where butter does. You don't have the conjugated linolenic acid, the CLA, which helps your body use fat for fuel. It doesn't have that. Butter does. So butter is the superior choice. And if you truly cannot tolerate dairy, if you're lactose intolerant, don't talk to me about butter, please. There's no lactose in butter. Yeah. But if you have like a dairy allergy where you're breaking out in hives or having some sort of sickness from even the tiniest amount of dairy, then you need to get a butter alternative and getting some cold pressed oil butter sort of thing if that's what you need to be eating. But then you need to be using it sort of sparingly and eating a lot more of other fats like tallow and lard and schmaltz, coconut. Like you need to be eating a lot of the other kinds and preferring those when you're cooking. And not just using your margarine because it's not going to give you the same nutrition. If you just need something that you can spread on bread that kind of tastes like butter because you like buttered bread, then and you can't eat dairy, fine. Get the margarine Earth Balance or whatever. But don't think that it's a 1-for-1 swap for butter because it isn't. You're going to be better served eating actual fat on your ribeye, on your chicken wings, on your turkey leg. That's where you're going to be getting the fat soluble vitamins you need. It's not the same eating it in canola oil butters or whatever.
Yeah. So let me read you the ingredients. Kerrygold Irish butter, pure Irish butter made with milk from Irish grass-fed cows. The ingredients are pasteurized cream and salt. Okay. Ready to hear Earth Balance? Natural oil blend, could be some version of palm fruit, canola, soybean, flax, and olive oils, filtered water, pure salt, natural flavor, plant derived from corn, no MSG, no alcohol, no gluten. Does have pea protein, sunflower lecithin, lactic acid, and naturally extracted annatto for color. So it's like you know, if you aren't eating vegan because, well, anyway, I'm not even going to say that. Butter is butter. This is just a lot of not great for you things mixed together to kind of taste and look and melt like butter.
Yeah. So if you are making Caitlin's waffle recipe, or you're making food that needs a butter-like substance in it, go ahead with this. If you truly cannot tolerate dairy, fine. But don't delude yourself to think that this is a 1-for-1 swap and you're getting the same nutrition and you can just be eating this and thinking it's the same, because it's not the same. You need to be eating more of the other kinds of fats and other times in your diet in order to make up the difference.
Totally. What else is on your door? Some people keep their eggs on the door. I don't.
I don't keep my eggs on the door, but some doors have a spot for them. It's not big enough for the eggs.
I was just
going to
say,
goes through.
how many cartons of eggs do you have in a week? We like
probably eat, I would say we eat about 8 eggs a day, 8 to 10 eggs a day in this house. Sometimes more if I'm like baking or something, but just what we're eating, 8 to 10 eggs a day. So we go through them at quite the clip. And so we keep them on the top shelf. But since we're talking about eggs, the best is pasture raised. So chickens don't eat grass. So don't look for grass-fed eggs. I mean, they may nibble on a piece of grass here and there, but it's not their main food. Their main food is veggie and fruit matter and really bugs. They eat a lot of bugs. So the chickens that live outside and get released into the apple orchard, that is the kind of chicken that you want to be eating the meat from. That's the kind of chicken you want to be eating the egg from, because they're eating lots of bugs. They're going over to the apples that fell from the tree that have a bunch of worms growing in it, eating the worms, eating the apple. And that's what you want. Chickens are sort of like, love the one you're with, eat the thing in front of you. They are not picky. They eat all different kinds of things. And that's really important to remember. They're omnivorous. They're not vegetarians. So vegetarian fed chicken, vegetarian fed egg, that's not going to be the best. They're not eating their natural diet. They need to be eating a lot of protein from bugs. So the best would be pasture raised chickens that just, they have a little mobile coop, and on Mondays they're in the pasture with the cows. On Tuesdays they're in the apple orchard. On Wednesdays they're over in the compost area. Like, they're just kind of going round and round and eating the bugs out of all the different parts of the farm. That's best. I would follow that by organic free range. That'd be like second tier. I would follow that by organic cage free. And then the last step would just be regular old eggs, and just remembering that chickens aren't vegetarian. So vegetarian fed eggs, you're paying a higher price point for an egg that's inferior to a regular egg.
And if you can find like a local farmer that lets their chickens roam free and they have a lot of them, you can pick them up on the side of the road, you can talk to them about what happens to their chickens. That's like amazing. Do that.
Yeah, especially if some of you are coming in off of a lifelong plant-based diet sort of thing, or like since college, and you learned a little too much about what farms do to animals. And it's really not something that you want to be a part of. You don't want to buy into this system that's truly abusing animals. And I would agree that a lot of farms and the way things are going, I would say that that is true animal abuse. And if you don't want to buy into that, I don't blame you. But some of these chickens are living better than you, sister. And so finding a farmer that values the life of the animal, and even if you are coming off of the plant-based lifestyle and you just can't quite get yourself to the point where you want to eat the flesh of a dead animal, an egg, that chicken goes on to lay another day. And that chicken is going to lay an egg today, whether you eat it or not. So it is something that's being produced. It is not harmful to the chicken. It's not hurting them in any way. And you can find a farmer that treats the chickens with enough respect to where you feel comfortable eating the egg. That's the egg that you want to buy.
For sure. I think something else that people wonder about in their fridge is like, what's the best way to store your fruit and your vegetables?
Oh, there are a lot of different schools of thought on this. And my number one opinion is pretty much what Caitlin said at the beginning. The best way to store them is to where you're seeing them immediately when you open the fridge and they're the first thing in your mind. And so they're the first thing that you're cooking. Whether that makes them last the longest, whether that makes them taste the crispest, that is secondary to me over, are you going to actually eat these things? Because we don't need a vegetable museum. We don't need a fruit graveyard.
Right.
We need you to actually be eating these things and putting those dollars to work for your fertility by actually eating the foods that you buy.
I know. It's like, here's just another bag of pre-washed bagged lettuce that goes straight into the trash can if it ends up at the back of your fridge.
Or in the bottom drawer or wherever.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, I don't know, watch Home Edit, okay? Or like go watch a fridge organization show, because I don't want to get totally in the weeds on how to do things. But when it comes to pregnancy and trying to conceive, you want to be eating these things, and then food safety needs to be number one as well. If you are thawing chicken, please arrange your fridge in a way to where it's not going to drip into your raspberries.
Yeah.
Yes. Food that's going to be cooked needs to be sort of separate from food that's going to be eaten raw. So keep your meats and stuff on the bottom, and then anything that's going to be eaten raw over top of it, so that the two don't cross-contaminate and you're not eating salmonella strawberries. That's not good for anyone. So that's really important. And then certain things like storing your potatoes differently than you store your onions. They both release a gas that makes the other go bad. So you want to keep them separate. I actually keep my onions in the pantry and then potatoes in the fridge. So that's sort of,
I don't put fresh tomatoes in the fridge because it makes them mealy and kind of gross.
Yeah, my tomatoes live over by my fruits on my little fruit rack.
So what would somebody be surprised to open your fridge right now and see?
Maybe a human head. No. Silence of the Lambs. What would they be surprised to see?
Maybe my
neighbor's breast milk.
Did her fridge stop working?
No, she moved, and my daughter just is learning about having a bottle, and so she's been enjoying a bottle of milk in her bath at night, and so she's been enjoying my neighbor's milk because my neighbor's baby won't take a bottle, and she pumped all this milk. And I can't do pumped milk. I have high lipase in my milk, and so you either have to boil it before you store it, which is like a whole nother thing. So I just sort of gave up on storing milk. My milk I actually donate to people that are going to be mixing it with formula, because that is it doesn't matter if you have high lipase, if you're doing like a half milk, half formula bottle for your baby. So I just give my milk to moms who use formula. And then, we have sort of like a milk
exchange happening.
But that would probably surprise somebody to see somebody else's breast milk in my fridge.
My mother-in-law.
Energy drinks. My husband's energy drinks. You would be shocked. You would be like, who the hell is drinking these? And that's who.
My mother-in-law drinks milk every time she has spaghetti. And last night I made spaghetti and invited her over. And I was like, we don't have milk in our fridge. So if you want to have milk with your spaghetti tonight, you need to bring your own milk. And then I was like, correction. I have human milk in my fridge. If you want some human milk.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think somebody would be surprised that I have like prepackaged, already cooked meat in various forms that like somebody else made, and it came with the sauce. Pretty clean ingredients.
Some of that too.
But it's like, that's a really easy lunch. Like cook up, some cauliflower rice, some pre-washed and cut kale, cut up a carrot or two, and then throw in whatever kind of mixed pre-cooked thing is.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to make it. I didn't have to make all of it. And I didn't even have to cut or chop the vegetables, except for maybe the carrot. But I just ate an entire meal that was like mostly meat and vegetables, and it tasted great and it was easy. So having something like that can be like life-changing. And you may be surprised to see that Sophia and I keep those kinds of things around when we're so like, eat real food, eat at home. Well, you can eat real food and eat at home and still have convenience. You still have to lead your like modern lifestyle. And that may not include making everything from scratch. We don't expect that.
We definitely don't expect that at all. I don't do that either. And we're looking for just a little bit better than what you were doing before. And if that gets you, like I put this in my Instagram story last week. I bought like a Thai chicken dish from Costco, like pre-cooked chicken, pre-cooked veggies. And it has, you know, a few little slivers of half moon onion, a few little slivers of bell pepper in it, but it's mostly chicken and sauce. And if you were just going to eat it, I don't even think it's enough for like 2 people to have the meal. You would just eat the entire package of chicken and sauce, and you would get way more calories than you needed with way more carbs than you needed from the sauce. So I do the exact same thing. I had bok choy and spinach that needed to get eaten. So I sauteed that first and then poured the chicken and sauce over it. And then it was absolutely enough for 2 people to have for lunch. And so then my husband and I both ate it, and we got a big serving of veggies in too. So yeah, those kinds of things, whatever gets the job done, y'all. Okay. Not everything has to be from scratch. You don't need to be roasting your own turkey to make turkey sandwiches. You can buy sliced turkey.
Right.
You can buy pre-cooked ham. You can do whatever it is you need to do that gets it a little bit better than the way that you usually have been doing it. That's all we're looking for here. So besides the breast milk and the energy drinks, yeah, you'd probably be surprised to see pre-cut vegetables, pre-made meats with sauces, and even some like sauces that I use on a regular basis. I got the Trader Joe's gyoza dipping sauce. You want to pair some Asian inspired meat and veggies. All you have to do is put veggies in a pan and pour some of this gyoza dipping sauce over it and cook it in the sauce. And you've got a Asian bok choy stir fry kind of thing. That's delicious. And my daughter likes the sauce too.
And Trader Joe's also has those frozen ginger cubes. So you can pop 1 or 2 of those in. Yeah.
Fresh ginger is for the birds. I cannot. It's either withering or molding. And then I go get it, and it's like a wooden stick that can't be used.
Yeah. Oh. And ginger is such a great flavor, and talk about great for fertility and nausea and pregnancy. So that's something I recently like home edited my pull out freezer in my home. And then I have like a stand up freezer in my garage. And I found every time I go to Trader Joe's, I buy a new garlic and ginger thing, because usually I go through them really quickly. I found like, 20 of these half used. So I moved them all out to the freezer, stand-up freezer in the garage, and now I'm like rotating them in and not buying any until I actually need more. But they're amazing. It can make your dish taste great. They also have cilantro, garlic. The ginger ones, like money.
You got me turned on to those. I was like, I can't afford this. And you gave me the weirdest look. You're like, it's like $1 cent more.
Yeah, it's like stupid. And it actually gets used. You also can't afford, even 100%. If it's like 24 cents to get a ginger, a hunk of ginger in the produce section. If you're not using it, you're throwing it. It gets thrown away.
Exactly. And then I have to make a million dishes because I have to like get this special grinder, and then I just squeeze the ginger, and oh my gosh, no. Or I'm using ginger powder, which is not even nearly the flavor.
No, the flavor, not even. No. So, okay, let's talk about freezer for a minute, and then we have to wrap up this saga of 3 episodes. What's in your freezer?
My freezer, I have a lot of frozen meat. I get a butcher box. I also get I
get like a salmon seafood box.
Oh, I don't do that, but that may be on the list soon. My husband's friend raised a cow, and so we got a bunch of that meat. Awesome. So that's mainly where the meat comes from. And every night I sort of put the kitchen to bed, and I think of, what do I need for tomorrow? Is there Is there something frozen that needs to pull out? Is there something
that needs to get
am I
put in the
doing
fridge right before bed because you're letting
yes.
it cool?
Mm-hmm. Is there
Mm-hmm.
something that needs to get put in the freezer? Is there something that needs to get taken out of the freezer? Is there something that needs to get put in the fridge or something needs to get taken out of the fridge? Am I going to be doing some baking? Am I doing an overnight oat? Am I doing sourdough kind of stuff? Like what needs to be sort of set out, put away, and sort of button up the kitchen for the night so that I'm prepped out for the next day? That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the way to do it with frozen meat, so that it just thaws in the fridge overnight and it's ready by the time you do dinner the next day, depending on the size of it. If you have like a whole chicken, like that's going to need more than one night
Mm-hmm.
worth of defrosting. But that's sort of what I do there. So frozen meat is a big staple in our house. Frozen seafood, same thing. Fresh seafood is too much pressure for me, people. It can
Mm-hmm.
only stay fresh in your fridge for like 2 days max. And I cannot deal with that. I need a flexible timeline. So I go for the frozen seafood as well most of the time, unless somebody like straight caught a fish out of the ocean and brought it to me that
Gave it
day.
to you.
But
Yeah. Oh man, that used to happen for me. It doesn't really happen in Kansas anymore.
we
I
don't
also
really eat the fish that come out of the ocean. We live a mile from Mexico, so we're not too keen on these fish.
So other things in my freezer are like meals that I'll make a big batch of chili. I'll make it big on purpose. I'll freeze half of it. That's a meal I can eat another time with little or no effort. The other thing that I have a lot of in my freezer is when I see organic berries go on sale, fresh or frozen, I'll buy them. And if they aren't pre-frozen, I will freeze them myself. And other things like that. It's nice, in my opinion, when you're having a rough night and you need to do something quick, to have a couple bags of like a pre-diced onion, so that it's just a matter of like throwing it in the pan. Does it taste as great? No. But sometimes
if
you
it's
just need
going
quick
into
and
your
easy.
bolognese, or if it's
Yeah.
going into your chili, like it's just one of so many flavors.
Mm-hmm.
Liver cubes,
I was
that's in
just
my
gonna say,
freezer.
yeah.
I
Frozen
get liver.
cubes.
I blend it with a little water so that it moves. And then I pour
Not moves,
like swirls in the blender.
Yeah.
And
then you
then
freeze it in
I
ice cubes.
freeze it in ice cubes and plop a couple cubes into my sauces, tacos, chilies, whatever.
Not her
That's definitely in the
martinis.
freezer. No. That is so disgusting. Oh my God.
I also, something that I will do is I will freeze, like when I'm at Trader Joe's or somewhere, I'll get a organic French baguette and I'll come home and cut it into like 4 pieces and freeze them. And then like if we're going to have spaghetti and we want to have bread with it or something like that, but I don't
like
want
white
an
bean
entire
soup or
loaf.
something.
Yeah, I don't want like an entire loaf out for everybody to eat, because we will eat through the whole thing. It's nice. It's like kind of portioned. It's defrosts really quickly. You can like just set it on the counter while you're cooking dinner. Frozen soups. That's something. I'll make big batches of soups and then freeze them, especially if somebody's sick. I have like frozen bone broth that I made from the leftover carcass of the turkey, or like, somebody was sick and I made chicken noodle soup. When I make chicken noodle soup or something like that, I don't cook the noodles in the soup. I cook them separately and store them separately. So it's like everything but the noodles, chicken noodle soup in my freezer. So all I have to do is kind of warm it up and then put noodles in. I like just store soups or even just like sauces or anything that has a noodle separate, because otherwise while it's kind of stored cooling off, it absorbs all the liquid and then you don't have soup anymore.
So mushy.
Yeah, it's just gross. Anything else in your freezer?
I do frozen veggies quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Frozen spinach, frozen broccoli, frozen green beans. Those are my 3 staples. Cauliflower rice frozen. I've always got some of that. That's a staple in my freezer as well. I've got popsicle molds, and I make popsicles for my kid a lot. She really loves popsicles. And so as we have like fruit that's going or whatever, I do, she's still pretty little, so I just do like fruit and heavy cream is most of the time what her popsicles are made out of.
Or even if you have leftover like canned coconut milk for like if you're making something but you didn't eat all of it, you could do that in a popsicle. So delicious.
Or a bottle she didn't finish if your kid drinks from bottles. You could just mix that with like cherries or something like that and
Make
I do
popsicle.
pour it in the popsicle mold.
Mm-hmm.
So she eats a lot of those. So I've got that. Gosh, what else is in
We
there? I
do
think
one night a week. We do like a homemade pizza night when it's truly not homemade. It's like Trader Joe's kind of made dough that you get to roll out. It's really fun for the kids. And then I get like a pizza sauce or just use leftover marinara or something. But I've been doing less dairy and less gluten lately. So I have a couple like pre-made frozen cauliflower crusts. They're not full pizzas. They're not like made for me. I finish making it with my own sauce or, whatever toppings I want to put on top of it. But I always have a couple of those in my fridge lately, at least.
I always have the Costco Bear chicken nuggets. They're a very lightly breaded chicken nugget that to me is almost like a dupe for Chick-fil-A chicken nuggets, but the ingredients list isn't 45 ingredients long.
Just get your favorite Chick-fil-A sauce and it's golden.
I don't even really like Chick-fil-A sauce, honestly.
Oh my gosh. Have you had the green one, the like sriracha chili one?
No.
So spicy. It's so delicious.
Last time I ate at Chick-fil-A, I did not feel good after. And so I'm sort of off Chick-fil-A for now. But so anyway, those are key in my house. You put them in the air fryer. They're crisp and ready in 10 minutes. So we throw those atop salad all the time. Bag salad, leftover dressing, sprinkle of cheese, chicken. Or I'll do like a dip tray where I have I basically mix ranch seasoning with yogurt and then cut up bell pepper or cucumber or carrot or some combination therein. And then you have the chicken next to it.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Yeah.
And different.
Yeah. And my daughter eats this chicken very easily. And so it's sort of my like
easy, push the easy button. Yeah.
Push the easy button. And listeners, it is vital to have these things in your house. When I am helping my course participants put together meals, I have them, instead of having like a menu for the week that's like Monday is chili, Tuesday is burgers, Wednesday is salmon. I sort of have them put together all of the things that they would need for a week's worth of food. And after that, you choose what you want on any given day, depending on how much energy you have. So I say plan probably 2 days of the week that you're going to have no energy. And you had meetings that went long, you're exhausted, you have problems going on in your life and you don't want to deal with anything. And that's the night you would usually go to the drive-through. Instead, that's when you're doing rotisserie chicken in a bag salad. That's where you're doing the pre-cooked frozen chicken. That's where you're doing the most easiest thing with literally like zero prep, the least prep you can do, the pre-made chicken with sauce on cauliflower rice from the fridge.
Right.
And then I say to have probably 2 to 3 nights a week that are what I call the all-stars, which is that's where you're having a regular day. You just feel normal amount of energy, normal amount of creativity. You're just a normal Wednesday.
You have enough time to do something.
Enough time to do something. Normal day. And that's where you make a meal that you've made before, probably a dozen times, and your family likes. That's your spaghetti and meatball night. That's your chicken chili night. That's your lettuce wrap burger night, like whatever it is that you're doing, where it's like a medium amount of effort, just a regular day. And then I have you do 1 or 2 nights a week that I call the reach. And that's where you try something new. You've got creative energy. You're feeling good. You've got some good news or whatever it is. You're feeling good and you've got a little pep in your step enough to try a new recipe and be creative and read through the directions on something and try it, because that's how you build your all-star list. Because when you make something, it's a hit. Everybody gobbles it down. It only took you 30 minutes to prepare. It's got lots of protein, colorful veggies. Hooray. That recipe that you just tried now goes on the all-star list and it goes into the rotation for the next month. And so a couple nights a week, 1 to 2 nights a week, where you're going to anticipate having energy and feeling good. And then I have a leftover night where you just sort of pull everything together from what you've been eating all week long, and a takeout night. And together that puts together your 7 meals of the week. And you just base each day not off of what does the menu say, but how much energy do I have?
Mm-hmm.
How good am I feeling? Because if you
And
got bad news,
the more practice you get at this, the easier it is to like not be so feeling overwhelmed by something new, and getting to the point where you're like, okay, well, I'm looking at my fridge and I know I'm going to make this like grilled steak and baked potato night with salad, but actually the steak, it's expiring soon. So I need to do this earlier in the week than I thought I was going to do it. And you just rotate it based on that, based on like when things are going to be good or bad or fresh, or, you have more time to be able to do it versus how you're feeling. I think there's like a kitchen competency that you just kind of get better at throughout time the more you practice and do.
And it's practice. It's practice. It's practice. None of us were born with this. We all grew up just how you did, with a microwavable stovetop stuffing and ground beef. Okay. That's we had the same childhood that you did, pretty much. And so it's one of those things that you just sort of have to practice at. And it's a part of taking care of yourself. Just like you weren't born knowing how to do your own hair, floss your own teeth.
Right. I was
you had to learn how to
you
do
brush your
stuff.
teeth twice a day, don't you? Like it's okay to learn how to do this and be better at it. And it's okay for your partner to learn how to expand what they're eating too, and like go on this adventure together. And maybe it's not you. Maybe he's the one that's cooking, but you need to give him ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Or he's got a couple dishes that are in his wheelhouse. And so you put him on the roster a night a week, even though he only makes one of the same three things. If he's cooking one night a week, then he makes one of his three things, and you eat that thing once a month. And that's how that goes. Or you're the one that makes three things, and he's the one that can do other stuff. So that is really how I like to plan my weekly menu and put all of this stuff together and use the frozen things. Because for me, a lot of times it's how much energy do I have? How am I feeling by the time dinner rolls around? Do I have the energy to do something new and creative, or am I just trying to phone it in until bedtime?
Right.
Because we all have days like that, and you got to plan for
seasons
it.
of life like that. If you're like at fertility doctor appointment before work, and then you're going to work, and then you're coming home, like this isn't the night to try the new bolognese recipe that's going to take 2 hours. Like, please don't do that to yourself. Or in the season of life that Sophia and I are in, where you have little kids running around and so much energy, and there's just so much going on all the time. Plus you have a business and you're doing all these things. Like it may not be the night to do everything creative or from scratch or all the chopping.
And you never know what they're going to need. You never know when someone's going to be like, I just threw up in the backyard. And you're like, oh my God. Okay. Well, now you're sick, or spike a fever, or need stitches, or have a meltdown because her sister drank from her water cup, or whatever thing that ends up distracting you and completely draining you. You need to have some things on board that are still going to keep your life functioning without you having to pour tons of energy into it every single day. There will be days where you feel great and everything is working and you have the energy to do new stuff. Take advantage of that and try a new recipe that might become the family fave. But you also are going to have low energy, sad days, or unexpected things where you get a flat on the way home and it takes up all the time you were going to use to make whatever you were going to make.
Right. Totally. Okay. Let's put a cap in it. Grocery, kitchen, refrigerator, snack swaps.
Surprising items in our fridges.
Oh, the most surprising one ever. 6 months after having a baby, cleaning out, home editing my freezer and finding the placenta from the birth that the midwives put in the freezer. And they were like, are you going to eat this? Are you going to encapsulate it? And I was like, no. They're like, okay, put it in your trash, your next trash day. And I thought that somebody had also heard that because I had just had the baby. No one else heard that or documented what was in our freezer for 6 months. And so I went out and was like, what's in this white trash bag? Wow, is that liver? Oh no, that was my placenta. I think I literally almost lost my 2 doors down neighbor friend because she's like the home edit minimalist. I texted her, I was like, you want to know what I just found in my freezer? She's like, do I want to know? I was like, yeah, you probably don't, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so my girl is that she's still my friend, and
girl.
asked me like, hey, can you come over and watch my kids while I take this other kid to the doctor? And I've been for months being like, let me help you out a little bit when your husband's working. Like, can we have that kind of relationship where you watch mine and I watch yours and we're like just happy go lucky neighbors? So she finally took me up on it, and her very, very, very shy, need my mommy all the time 2-year-old like sat in my lap and played and was totally fine the whole time. And I was like, yes, we're this level of friends now. So.
Oh, I love that. Girl, I'll do one that's sort of similar. I have a friend like that in my neighborhood, and we decided that we would do a swap because I really wanted to go see Top Gun and she really wants to go see it too. So she watched my baby while my husband and I went and saw it. And this weekend I'm going to watch her baby while her and her husband go see it.
Oh, awesome.
And I loved it. Listeners, it is the most fun I have had at the theaters in a really long time. And it was filmed in my hometown and the town that I currently live in. So that was really fun. I was actually cast in the movie. And
you were cast in the movie?
I was. Yeah, I was cast as an extra, but I couldn't go because it was before my husband and I were married, and you needed to be able to get onto this one Navy base, and he couldn't take me on base, and I couldn't find a friend to take me on base because I just moved to San Diego. But then I saw the movie and they didn't end up using any of the footage I would have been in anyway. So it's fine. But so it was so much fun. And right as your heart and emotions are just soaring with the jets, they hit you with this 80s style Lady Gaga power ballad that brings you home.
Okay, I'll go see it now.
And it is so much fun.
I love me some Gaga. I love me some Gaga.
It's cheesy, but just enough cheese. It's the sprinkle of cheese on top. It's cheesy,
it's the mustache. It's the cheese stuck to your mustache.
I'm sorry at the F words. I love a mustache. I love a good mustache. And there are some good mustaches in this movie.
All right. This has been another episode of Food Freedom and
Fertility.
Fandom.
I
gotta go really
Fandom
bad,
fixation.
So we'll see you next week for another episode and then our final episode of this season.